This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 167. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life Shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome back. It's Monday. Telemark is still the best turn on snow, and we're rocking and rolling. So I'm psyched to be back this week, and just did a little lap through Colorado, did some retail visits to some accounts where we're going to be selling the Bluebird day gear stuff next fall, and it was nice to get out there. And I don't know, everyone made it seem like there's no snow there. Maybe it's because we're like 470 inches, I think, at Alta this week for the season, but it looked good. I circumnavigated the entire state of Colorado in like 3 days, and I saw a lot of terrain, and you guys have snow, so I think it's good out there. So hopefully people are enjoying some turns out and about in Colorado, Utah, wherever you may be, and you're having a good start to the week. So let's get into this. Newsroom and notes for the week. We're still pretty stocked up on the majority of stuff. So if you're looking to get a setup now that we're sort of mid-season, it's still a good time to do so. I think the biggest thing is if you're nearby to Salt Lake City and have the ability to come to the Freeheel Life retail store, our demo fleet is put together now. We've got some protectors mixed in there. Most everything's set for 22 designs, so we can flip-flop it with inserts, and we can put a Outlaw X on there, a Lynx, and kind of flip-flop, especially in those mid-sizes. We'll do that in the 174. Sometimes people have a large NTN. Sometimes they have small. We do have some 75 millimeter Voleskis in our demo fleet as well. So if you're not wanting to hop on NTN to try the Voleskis in our NTN stuff, which we also have that Manti Supercharger, Ultra Vector, that sort of thing. We do have some 75 millimeter ones in-house that we can get you on, and that might be a good option for you as well. So want to be sure to let you know about all that good stuff, and would love to see you in the retail shop. If you're online, it's open 24/7, freeheellife.com, and be sure to get in and get stuff going before the end of the season. So on that note, we are going to be closing most likely April 1st. So we're not going to call that firm yet, but that's more or less when we're going to shut her down. We will keep that sort of loose and dynamic in the next couple weeks as we sort of finalize our plans heading out of the winter season. Seems like we just started talking about skiing, and now we're talking about the end of the season. So always crazy how quick it goes by, but it's been a great one. So we're excited to wrap up year number 9. And so yeah, April 1st is definitely going to be sort of the end of the line for the retail shop. Most likely for those people that are still skiing beyond April, which is very common for those of us in Utah. We'll figure out, the online stuff will still be available, and we might have some by appointment only or something like that, as we kind of trickle out towards when the resorts are fully closed. So anyways, wanted to get that on your radar. I am this year going to be doing something different with the podcast. So April 3rd, I'm going to drop the last episode of the season, and I am going to take the summer off. So that's kind of new. The first 2 years, I basically just went every Monday through the entire year, and it was great. Never felt like I was running out of stuff to talk about, and never felt like we didn't have good guests or anything like that. Hopefully you felt the same way. But I definitely want to focus our efforts a little bit as we go into the summer, just on building some content. I'm obviously going to be running my real estate business here in Salt Lake as well. So always a good time to focus on that business. But we are going to be focusing on kind of bringing some good content together over the summer. So we've got a really good, solid base to start with in September. And, I think one thing we've learned is just running a smaller team is we really, in order to be as efficient as possible, we've really got to have some planning time. And, by April, the majority of the people are starting to move into springtime stuff and springtime activities, golf, biking, hiking, like most of us are. So if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you're on your own as far as the Freeheel life stuff goes. We will have a shipping person throughout the summer because that's obviously a large part of our business and stuff like that. But just going to be doing a little bit different thing. Wanted to let you all know about that. I know there's some incredibly dedicated listeners out there, and I greatly, greatly appreciate you. So that gives us about 2 months to pack it in. I'm going to get some really good podcasts out, and looking forward to finishing the season strong. So I will say, as we're getting into more of this news, this is going to be I'm going to do a mailbag episode and a lot of news because there's just tons of events going on, and I want to make sure to get out there as much information for everyone who's been kind enough to send in their details for World Telemark Day meetups, what events are coming up that we're involved with on a sponsorship level. And we just love that. So kicking it off is coming up this weekend, Midwest Telefest, February 10 through the 12th at the Porcupine State Park up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Guess what I'm most excited about with this? If you followed social media, I posted this. It's on the Freeheel Life page. If you follow my stuff, I posted it as well on Instagram and Facebook. Our good friend, my telly brother from another mother, Keith Opperman, who's been our Midwest Freeheel Life rep these last couple years. He's the one who runs the Midwest Telefest at this point. And somehow he pulled it off where he got a run named the Freeheel Life Glades, maintained by Midwest Telefest. And there's this cool spot. I mean, we're talking there's essentially a single chair on the mountain, and there's this cool glade section that now you are going to be able to ski for time and eternity called Freeheel Life Glades. So if you're headed to Midwest Telefest this weekend, take a picture next to the sign, tag me in it at Josh Nomadson on Instagram, or email it to me if you're not a social media person to podcast@freeheellife.com. I would absolutely love to see some podcast listeners next to the Freeheel Life Glade sign. And big thank you to Keith and all the people at Midwest Telefest for making that happen. It's an honor to have our brand name on a sign like that at a resort where there's so many cool people going to Telemark every single year, and we just absolutely love that. So be sure to check that out. Also, this weekend, Monarch Ski Area in Colorado, Telefestivus is happening. This is put on by Mountain Chalet out of Colorado Springs. They're an awesome shop. They're going to be carrying some Bluebird Day Gear stuff next year, and definitely wanted to mention Telefestivus. It's a great gathering of a lot of Telemark skiers in that part of Colorado. Kind of pulls multiple areas from, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, all the way, honestly, it probably stretches up to like Salida, Buena Vista, a bunch of those zones as well. And obviously, if you're in the Denver metropolitan area too, it's not that far of a drive. And I think sometimes when you got to choose I-70 over going to a cool place like Monarch, you might choose a nice weekend at Monarch ski area. So Telefestivus is happening February 12th. So make sure to check that out. Coming up the week after that, let's go over to Japan. Telemark Saiko Nazawa Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. My Japanese is not great. February 18th and 19th. So event booking, there is one to join the clinics, and the indoor presentation booking is required. And you can reserve a spot via email, Facebook message, or Instagram message with Deanna Rivera from Telemark. So if you need a direct contact, again, hit me up at podcast@freeheellife.com. If you're not a social media user, I always like to give multiple options. I do not expect everyone that's listening to be on social media, but I know Deanna, she's been on the podcast a couple times. We've been kind of working together on some stuff, and she's great and doing some awesome stuff over there in Japan. So be sure to check that out if you're going to be in Japan during that area, or you are a Japanese telemark skier. We'd love to see you at that event. Coming up at the end of February, coming back to the United States, I've mentioned this one, 36th Annual Corey Anderson Telemark Festival at Bromley, February 26th through the 27th. Awesome spot, lots of history, lots of telemarkers. So be sure to hit up Bromley for that. Then we are heading into World Telemark Day, which is March 4th. If you need a logo or a little press snippet to share, I've been sending those out to folks that are emailing me as needed. Maybe, some people have needed a little bump with their resort, their marketing person. Some people just want it for their own social media. Whatever you need, hit me up, podcast@freeheellife.com. Let's get it to you. Gather your friends, gather the people that want to try, pull an extra setup out and take it to the mountain that day. And let's get everybody out for the 9th Annual World Telemark Day, March 4th. Colorado Telemark skiers, you can meet up at Eldora. The Telecalo folks are going to be there putting on their limbo and some other sweet events. And I'm sure drinking a couple brews and hanging out. So Eldora Mountain Resort for the Front Range folks. I am looking for a meetup in Steamboat Springs. A gentleman reached out and was wondering who else will be there. I know Steamboat is a stronghold for telemark skiers. If you're a podcast listener, hit me up. Let me know where you're meeting up. Give me a chair. Give me a time. Whatever. And I'll relay it to this other person who I think posted in our Facebook group. But start sending them in. We've only got about 3 weeks until this happens. And I want to make sure to connect as many people as possible. And we're going to have one hell of a day all over the world, dropping knees together. Lake Placid, New York, World Telemark Day meetup. They're spending the first part of the day at Whiteface Mountain all morning, and final group runs meeting at the gondola at 1 p.m. Then around 2 p.m., they're going to switch to the Cascade Welcome Center for some XCD, some cross-country downhill music and campfires, followed up with telemovies in the lodge and a small raffle. Look for Nathaniel. Okay? So, Lake Placid, New York, World Telemark Day meetup. Staying on the East Coast, World Telemark Day at Berkshire East. Meet up at Chair 4 at 10 a.m. And they're going to be getting it done. Telemark tips by a PSIA certified instructor, Hal. You can reach him at skistrees@gmail.com for more information. Hal, pulling it together, Berkshire East. They had a great meetup last year, and he's been really great about staying in touch. Nick over in Waterville Valley, New Hampshire. I'm tongue-tied, you guys. Nick, he's going to be putting a little meetup together. I'm going to get more info, but Waterville Valley, New Hampshire, it's going down. People are going to be there. They're meeting up for World Telemark Day. All right, so that's it for the WTD stuff. Please send your stuff to podcast@freeheellife.com. Literally all you need, if you're rolling solo, I will give it a shout out, and I want to let people know. Who knows? Maybe you'll get 2 people. Who knows? Maybe you'll get 4 people. You never know. That's the best part about the incredible internet. One of the good parts about it is we're going to pull people together and we're going to put on a great 9th annual World Telemark Day. So wrapping up some of the events after World Telemark Day worldwide is Dolomites in Italy, Scufaneta, March 10 through 12. The Scufons, which is a Telemark ski group that rock and rolls in that area. They are amazing. I've been to Scufaneta twice in my life. It is an amazing, amazing place where you get to ski the Super Dolomiti Pass. Tons of Telemark skiers, amazing terrain, amazing views, amazing food, amazing wine. The grappa's good. I could go on and on and on about how awesome and rad Scufaneta is. So be sure to check that out if you want to head over to Italy at the end of March, March 10 through 12, Scufaneta. And then that same weekend, Mad River Glen, Vermont, the Freeheel Frolic is happening, and it is Saturday, March 11th. Okay, Mad River Glen, super famous for Telemark, the old stomping grounds of Dickie Hall and the NATO folks. Many people have learned to Telemark in that area. Ski it if you can. Mad River Glen, March 11th, Freeheel Frolic. Check it out. All right, so hopping into some emails and just some feedback as well. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast last week about lightweight Telemark gear. If you didn't check that one out, I would highly suggest it. I talk a lot about the woods that are being used in a lot of the lightweight skis, their relationship to Telemark bindings or poor relationships. Let's just say they like to break up with Telemark bindings regularly. So be sure to check that one out. I did get some really good feedback from that from a couple people. One gentleman actually shot me a message on Instagram and actually had one of the skis that I brought up in his cart ready to check out and listen to the podcast, and actually swapped it for one of the other ones I suggested of the same brand that had an Aspen core that would work better. But it's definitely a topic if you're looking at always getting lighter and lighter in terms of your setup and quiver and what you're trying to put together. I would highly recommend listening to that and familiarizing yourself with some of the stuff I was talking about. I think it'll really help you out in the long run. So be sure to check that one out as well. I wanted this first email I got was from one of our protector customers, and as we're heading into the spring and summer, we're going to be looking at what we're doing with our ski production. We've been really fortunate to make these skis on a pre-order basis. We're not quite, we're definitely trying, the objective is to try to not get into that system where we're doing pre-orders. We would prefer to just make them and have stock to purchase. But we highly appreciate all the people that have helped us these last 2 years. Just to put it in perspective, there's only 80 pair total in the world right now. So it's been really cool to have that close proximity to the customer, get to know them, get to know their feedback. And we just sent a pair off to Norway to Erling, who's one of our protector customers. And I just wanted to read what he had said about it in case you're thinking about skiing this as well. And we're going to be doing this more, obviously, as we head into the spring and summer to help with the marketing efforts. But really, this, like I said, there's not that many skis in the grand scheme of things out there. And so I think by sharing this feedback, we really want that to be what helps other Freeheel lifers understand what the ski is, what type of skier is talking about it, weight, height, ski ability, those sorts of things. And I think this will really help. But just his general impression is he he shot me a WhatsApp message and literally got the skis in Norway and then proceeded to go to the Dolomites and ski, and it was great. And he said, "I'm impressed by the ski. It is a joy to use in mixed conditions, exactly what we face these days, and actually most days in the mountains of Norway as well. The Flex seems to give me additional power on the inside ski, which I have not felt on other skis." So thanks for the feedback, Erling. Really cool to be able to make something ground up and with a customer in mind, and then to get them on people's feet in all different areas and to get that kind of feedback. So I hope you had a great trip in the Dolomites, and I hope you enjoy your protectors when you get back to Norway. That's going to be awesome. Feedback on another episode I had was there was quite a bit of feedback on the Russell Rainey episode, and this one was from Mike. Short email. He just said, "Hey Josh, rad episode with Rainey, really amazing, one of the very best yet. Thanks for posting. Love the rabbit hole of tele history. Thanks, Mike." Thank you for listening. First off, I had a blast talking to Russell. That was definitely, those history podcasts, as you know, I mean, those mean so much to me personally, to be able to talk to these folks that have contributed in different ways to Telemark over the years. Obviously, the gear manufacturer ones are super interesting to me. The athlete ones are interesting to me. Event organizers are interesting to me. These along with all of us, right, that are telemarketing on a daily basis, whether we're a consumer or a retailer or whatever. I mean, we all make up this community. And I think Russell's one of those people that I loved being able to talk to him and hear about his journey. I mean, he's from Little Rock, Arkansas, and takes a Knowles course and gets involved with an outdoor shop, and then literally starts putting a binding together with pieces that he found at the local hardware store. It's a beautiful story. I absolutely love talking to people like that. And I'm glad you all enjoyed listening to it out there as well, at least from what I can tell from the feedback. And I'm not going to read all of the emails I got from that one, but I'll do my best to respond to them via email. But yeah, it's a fun episode. If you like Telemark history, if you like history in general, if you like ski history, I would definitely recommend checking that one out. This next email I'm going to read. It's not even directed at me, which is awesome. It's actually for Taylor Johnson, our general manager at Freeheel Life, who's a regular guest on the podcast. But I thought I would read it because I did present to him and Miles, our shop manager, because it sort of pertains to their knowledge base and not mine. But I wanted to read it here because before we respond, I'll get Taylor on here, and I want him to answer the question. But I thought if there's anybody else out there who's thought about this that wants to add, respond to it at the podcast@freeheellife.com email. Let me know your thoughts. So it says, "Hey, Telly Tay, I was talking Telly with my Telly mentor and was trying to explain to him my current quote unquote turn thought when he looked at me like I had 10 heads. As a lifelong golfer, the idea of a swing thought seemed like a universal concept, but apparently not. Maybe I'm projecting, but I think you mentioned before on the podcast that you see crossover in telemark and golf, which I see. So I thought if anyone would understand it, it would be you. So, fellow golfer and teleskier, have you ever heard of a quote unquote turn thought? Do you ever have one currently, or have you ever had one? Lastly, think there is any hope of it becoming part of the standard telemark lexicon? Your telly brother from the East, Dave." So I obviously, like I said, I have no idea what a swing thought is. So it's highly unlikely I'm going to know what a turn thought is. But I was even surprised. I I always tell Taylor and Miles, and somehow I ended up having a bunch of employees that are golfers rather than like mountain bikers and climbers, which is has been unique because, you know, every shop I've worked in or been around, I don't know, maybe there was more golfers than I realized, but I'm starting to wonder if there's more golfers that are Telemark skiers. So if you're a golfer and a Telemark skier and you're listening to this, hit me up and let me know what your answer to that question is. Is there a turn thought that is relevant to the swing thought in golf? All right, so on to the next one. This is for my buddy Morgan. He's down in Australia. He's part of those Telly guys. They run a really cool podcast in the Southern Hemisphere winter out of Australia. And since I'm not going to be rolling my podcast, that one I will definitely give a shout out to and point you in that direction. They've got some cool guests on there, and I always enjoy their sense of humor. They're way funnier than I am, so if you want to get a good laugh in the off season up here, check out those Telly guys. He said, I recently caught up on a few of the latest Freeheel Life podcast episodes on a long drive from the outback in New South Wales back to Victoria. 11 hours is a long drive. You guys have a lot of country down there, so I can imagine. He says, firstly, I really enjoyed hearing your thoughts on the transition to NTN episode. From my perspective, there seems to be a bit of a myth about just how different an NTN setup will ski compared to a modern 75 millimeter setup. Perhaps that sentiment has emanated from people who have made the jump from something more old school, which, as you say, is probably not the ideal way to go about it. You spoke about the Rotofella Freeride being the Ferrari of 2008. Do you think that Rotofella is likely to produce something new in the future or bring out a significantly updated binding? And was kind of his main question. You know, here's my thought on that. My hope is that Rotofella will update the Freeride or the Freedom or both, or just completely come up with something new. As the company that innovated NTN and then sort of held on to it in my opinion, and I've said this before, I think they held on to that patent a little too long because you basically had all the boot manufacturers making an NTN boot and you had two binding options between 2008 and 2011, and it just kind of crushed it. You know, it delayed the progress. And then when they finally let 22 Designs take a stab at designing something, and they came out with the Outlaw, the original Outlaw, I mean, it really, really opened things up. So do I think they're going to do it? I don't know. That's my honest answer. I was just over at Rotofella a few months back. I was shooting a video that some of you might have seen. It was they're nearing their 100-year anniversary, and I sort of represented the Telemark portion of talking a little bit about that and the history of Telemark. And, I got to go around the factory. I'm always talking to them about this kind of stuff. And, I think there's ideas floating around there. I know, I think like a lot of brands, Rotofella sort of reminds me of Scarpa. I always remind people Scarpa is not a Telemark brand. They're a footwear brand that happens to make Telemark boots. Rotofella is a Nordic brand that makes Telemark bindings. Okay. And I mean, their history, their legacy is in Nordic. And obviously when Telemark was much more Nordic, I don't want to say Nordic based. That's not correct. I mean, Telemark is a Nordic turn, right? It's a downhill Nordic turn, but they definitely make the majority of their money on probably what we define as like pure Nordic, skate skiing, classic skiing. They've come out with their Explore system, which is sort of a strange hybrid, sort of in the middle of everything, but it's more in that like NNN style type of skiing. So I don't think anything's on the books. And I think the the not short answer is I think there's a possibility we'll see something, but I think because of the R&D that goes into this type of things and the success of the Outlaw and the Outlaw X, since they let them innovate on the NTM platform and just other people in the marketplace, I think it's unlikely we would see something in sooner than like 3 seasons. So that's sort of my take on that. I would love to see them get back in the mix and sort of update things. I think now that we've seen some features, and I'm not, in Wild M Equipment, formerly M Equipment, they came out with Majo. There's a Tecto in there. But aside from that Tecto stuff, like on Lynx and Majo, I think there's really cool features across those bindings that can be incorporated into an NTN style binding, like the Free Ride, and the Freedom. Honestly, you could probably blend those two together and sort of, the Outlaw X is, when I said it was like Ferrari 2023, it kind of incorporates like the tourability of the Freedom, but it's got a better tow system. The springs are better. It's true step in. So there's like all these features floating out there that I think would be really, really cool to see. And that Rotofilla has the opportunity to come back. The good part about that business is they very much are focused on making their product in Norway, and they have the ability to do it there. And so I'm not sure if it'll happen, but I think it'll at least take 3 years if you see something, and likely it's going to probably combine what Free Ride and Freedom were and then sort of update it into one binding that sort of does it all. All right, I'm going to bring it back to a group that I've kind of got to know through the podcast and Instagram over the years. It's from Tom. He sent me sort of a little update. It says, "Hey Josh, here's a little North Vancouver tele update." It says a young kid showed up from out east and started a Facebook group. There's been and he gave me a link to that. So there's been fairly good turnout, and it's fun to chase some young tele rippers. Though some pretty solid old timers have come out of the woodwork. We have about 6 freeheelers each week. Nice to occupy a couple lifts. And if you could give a shout out to Cypress Tele Tuesdays Facebook group, that'd be sweet. So here you go. If you're on Facebook, go check out Cypress Tele Tuesdays Facebook group if you want to connect. He said last Saturday, the Varsity Outdoor Club, VOC, a super old club from UBC in Vancouver, had their 27th annual tele school up on Grouse Mountain. They reached out to our North Shore Telemark group for instructors and ended up getting a 2-to-1 student instructor ratio, 30 freeheelers in total. Says finally, we are still doing our full moon skin and ski up Seymour Mountain. Next one is Sunday, February 5th, which was yesterday at 7 p.m. And they meet at the backcountry trailhead at the bottom of the Mystery Creek lift. So we missed the announcement on that one, but if you want more details, go to @North Shore Telemark on Instagram. And if you're not on social media and you hear me talk about someone and you're like, oh, that person's in my zone, just hit me up on the podcast email and I can connect people via email. But the reason I wanted to read this, is Tom has emailed me a couple times, and it's so cool because I always like illustrating what other people are doing, because sometimes we're all sitting around, and like I always say, event organization, it's a lot, we all have jobs. You might have a family, you might have kids, you might be young and you just don't want to deal with it. I mean, there's a variety of reasons to not have to take on organizing. But what I wanted to illustrate with this is it's so cool because there's synergy between putting on this little Tele Tuesday event, starting a Facebook group, hooking up with this Varsity Outdoor Club, asking for instructors. This is how we grow it right now, I mean, this is how it's always grown, but people are in zones where they're gathering together and they're sharing resources, they're sharing equipment, they're sharing instruction, they're sharing ideas, and it's great. And I think what Tom is in this little update, and I love it. Thank you, Tom, for sending the update, because I get so fired up when I read your updates, because I can see it growing in this little region, and it's all because everyone's doing a little bit, and it's not overwhelming. Everybody's sharing the responsibilities, and it's truly building a community. And I hope that somebody else listening to the podcast maybe hears this and is in that North Vancouver area and says, hey, I'm in that zone too. I don't know these people. And maybe one by one, we can sort of grow that. And then, you figure out how to solve problems from there, how to get more equipment. Maybe there's a shop that wants to carry rentals at some point. And that's what's important, is just little by little, we can build this up anywhere in the world. And all it takes is a small group of people like this. So big ups to Tom and everybody up there, North Shore Telemark. Much appreciated. You inspire me just by sending these updates and get me stoked that every little bit just kind of grows this thing, and it's fun, and it's fun to share it with other people. So thank you. So as we kind of head out of this, I'm going to let you off the hook with sort of a short one today. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of those things. And this is that time of year where we can get people together in our local community, build this up, share ideas, figure out how to put things together. And like I said, World Telemark Day is coming up. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking, man, it'd just be cool to get to know more people in the area that I ski, March 4th, let me know where you're going to meet up. I'll see if we can connect you with someone else. And that's what this is all about, is just building the community, sharing the Freeheel life, getting out there and doing stuff. And, I know I run a Telemark business, but this business in and of itself was super DIY, it has been since the beginning. And, this is how we grow, and we be not just the business grow, but the community grow. Like, if we truly want to spread Telemark out there, we've all got to kind of do our part. And it might honestly, and I always say this, I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and be this event organizer or start a business. Just you being out there telemarking and just being cool to people, I think that's the most important thing. I'll just wrap up by telling a little quick story, sort of a conglomerate of stories, I guess. Going through Colorado, it's so interesting to me. That's like the number 2 state for us in terms of like e-commerce, where we sell. And there's some great shops out there. And part of why I was headed out there was to reconnect with retailers that are still passionate about Telemark. And that's how we want to start working with them as a brand, with Freeheel Life, with Bluebird Day Gear, and visiting them. That's why I was out there. But I wanted to bring something up that just to kind of wrap a bow around this idea of building community and building Telemark and actually spreading Telemark is, it's fascinating to me because I did walk into other shops. And the thing that is fascinating to me is sort of this narrative that's sort of been built up over the years, and probably the last 10 years, 15 years, where, Telemark is dead. Nobody does that anymore. It's, it's very prevalent, and it's so interesting to me because I know all of you out there. I know how many people are out there telemarketing, and I know how difficult it is sometimes to even find equipment in your area, because I just went through a state that has so many ski resorts, and there's gear there. And I'm walking into these shops, not the ones I was saying. There's some very, very passionate people putting on events and doing things. But I would poke in these other places and I'm just blown away at the response. And I'm just like, hey, do you carry Telemark gear? And it's like immediate. Not only is it immediate that people sort of respond, no, people don't really do that anymore, you know? But also it's almost like a cookie cutter response. And I'm talking in different towns spread out all over the place. It's like someone gave them a script that Telemark died and they just bought into it. And most likely they don't Telemark, and I get that. But it's so fascinating because if someone out there that's listening to this gets interested in Telemark or watches a video or even sees one of you out there Telemark skiing at your local hill and they want to go find information locally, it's tough. And they're going to hit a brick wall in a lot of cases. So I wanted to use that example with Tom, that North Vancouver update, and sort of my experience going through Colorado, and just remind everyone there are so many Telemark skiers out there. Do I know the exact number? No. Does it matter? Not really. What I do know is that if little communities grow and support each other, this thing will continue to grow. And, you know, we're going to try and do our part at Freeheel Life to be a good retailer and a good brand and try to make sure that we're supporting it in our capacity as well. So with that said, much love to you all. I hope you're having a fantastic week already this morning. I hope you've got your tea or your coffee or whatever you're drinking this morning to get you fired up. We got a great week ahead of us. I hope the snow falls deep. I hope you get some turns this week. And until next Monday, spread Telemark always, my friends. Peace out.